Hello, it's Michelle from CNC Designs. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in New Zealand, and I'm bringing you another Global Monthly Video Hop. So if you've seen these videos before, you may already know that in the description below the video, I will have links to other videos from demonstrators around the world that are participating in this month's hop. So when you're done watching this, please go to the description and click on the links to check out the other videos. Now this month, our theme is In Colors. So myself and all the other demonstrators will be showing you projects using In Colors. If you're not familiar with Stampin' Up! In Colors, they have a main range of colors in the catalog that are always there, but every 2 years they bring out 5 new colors that are only available for 2 years. So with the new annual catalog that came out in May, the In Colors that were only good from 2021 to 2023 would have finished, and they bring out another set of 5 In Colors. The In Colors that were valid from 2022 to 2024 are still available. So we actually have 10 In Colors. We have 5 brand new ones and 5 that are carrying over that will be here for another year. So I'm going to show you what I've done with the In Colors. I'm going to show you some of the In Colors and explain a bit about them, as well as do a card with some of the colors and show you some cards that I've already done with them. I will be putting in the description all the products that I'm using, so if you wish to purchase any, you can go to my site, michellekritchley.stampinup.net, to order from me in New Zealand, or if you've already got a demonstrator, talk to them. If you're outside of New Zealand, go to stampinup.com and look up for a demonstrator in your area that you can purchase from. So what I've got here are the color cardstock for all 10 of the In Colors. So the bottom stack here, these are the In Colors that will be here for 1 more year. If you have a catalog, and if you need a catalog and you're in New Zealand, contact me and I can send you one. So on page 122 of the New Zealand catalog, we've got our In Color collection. So the In Colors that came out in 2022 are still around until next year, I believe June, when this catalog finishes. So we've got Sweet Sorbet, Parakeet Party, Tahitian Tide, Starry Sky, and Orchid Oasis. So those are the colors there. And on this page, you can purchase the A4 cardstock, you can purchase the ink pads, you can purchase ink refills, or you can purchase the Stampin' Blends, which is the alcohol markers. There's another page that has the Stampin' Write markers, which are water-based, that you could purchase as well. So those are the colors that came out last year, and if you look at my video from last year, I did a project using those colors, and I also had the colors that were just that have just retired. Now the new colors, these are the new colors. They've just come out in May, and they're going to be around till 2025. So we've got, let me show them to you. We've got Copper Clay, kind of a rusty, reminds me of terracotta tile. So that's Copper Clay. Then we have Wild Wheat, kind of a goldy mustardy yellow, in my opinion. Then Boho Blue. You may have seen this color around for a little while because it's been in some of the kits, and the mini Stampin' Cut embossing machine came out in Boho Blue for new recruits a little while ago. And then we've got Moody Mauve. So it's kind of, it almost looks pink in that because of the light, but it's more, to me, a purpley color. Let's see if it looks different. Yeah, maybe I'll leave the light off. Gives you a better color choice. So that's Moody Mauve, and so there's Boho Blue. And last but not least is Pebbled Path. So it's kind of a gray, kind of a blacky gray color. So those are the new In Colors. And as I mentioned, we've got the other ones. Now, I only just purchased the cardstock for the new colors. I haven't purchased any of the inks or embellishments. Usually they come out with ribbon and gems, etc. But I haven't purchased any of those. I've only purchased the cardstock. So the project I'm going to do today will be with the in colors that are still around for a year. But I have made some projects using the new ones, the cardstock, and I will show you that at the end of this video so you can see some of the other projects. The other thing I'm using today that's brand new in the catalog is the Paper Florist Dies. Now, if you have a look at the back of the catalog, see all those beautiful flowers? A few of these are made with these special dies. They don't actually go with any of the stamp sets. They're just used to cut out cardstock to do up flowers. Now, these big daisy ones are a set, but these ones here, the purple and the yellows here, and some of these leaves are for the Paper Florist Dies, which I'll be showing you, I'll be using in the card today. And I'll be explaining a little bit about the different ways you can use that to make up lots of interesting flowers. So let's get started. The other thing today's project is going to do is using Stampin' Blends. That's why I'm using the colors that have been around for a year, because I have Stampin' Blends for those. I don't have any inks for these yet. And the alcohol to make them blend together. If you haven't seen that technique, it's a real fun technique to do. Hopefully it works out fine. So I don't have a sample card to show you yet because the base of this card will look different every time. But I am casing, which means copy and selectively edit, a card that I made a couple weeks ago with this team of demonstrators at an event called Craftables. So that's the card that I'm going to copy and selectively edit. So that's the background with the Stampin' Blends alcohol based. And I'm going to show you how to do that technique and make up some other flowers to put on it. Hopefully it comes together well. Might be a long video otherwise. But I will put in the description everything I use so you can have a look there to see how to do it. So let's move all these out of the way. So these pretty colors here are around for one more year. And these lovely colors here are brand new and they're around for 2 years. So let's move our in colors out of the way and get started. So I'm just going to use a white base card. I decided to cut it the skinny way. So it's going to be a portrait card. So it's going to open this way. Landscape would be opening this way, and you could have the fold there or the fold at the top, depending on how you cut it. So you need card base. I decided to just go with a neutral white. And then you need a piece of vellum. I've cut my vellum to fit a piece of white cardstock I already had. Now, having a white cardstock to have behind your vellum will make the color that you end up on the vellum show up much better. I could just stick this on any other background and it's going to affect the look of the color, and we'll have a nosy at that later on. And then I've just got another piece of white cardstock. This is a scrap one, but I'm going to stamp, try to recreate this with stamping some words across the top. The stamp set I'm going to use is the Quiet Meadow. This came out a year or so ago. When did this come out? A couple of years ago, 2021. But it's still in the current catalog. And it also has a nice set of dies called the Meadow dies. So there are dies. They don't necessarily match anything that you stamp here. However, the little word love and the words thinking of you and you're too kind will match up with the tags that are on this set. So if you're not interested in those words, this is just a really good die set to have. Now, I'm using this to give me stems to my flowers. I'm not going to use the top parts for the flowers. I have done videos in the past using this set, so have a look at my previous videos to see some of the uses of this die and stamp set. The dies that I want to introduce you to with the In Colors are these. They're Paper Florist Dies, and you'll find them in the die section of the catalog. So you get quite a few there. I don't know if you've ever done that before, but I trace around my dies, so then when I put them back, I know how to set them down easily so they fit where they need to go, as well as I can see if there's something missing. So we've had floral dies before, build your flower dies. We have a pansy one, we had a daffodil one. I'm not sure about the other current ones we have. But what I like about this set, this time around, they've actually got the die with all the pieces that you need in one, where previously, like if you have the pansy dies, and I might go grab them and show you what I mean. Each die is an individual die, so you have to try to figure out which dies go to create which type of flower, or which to layer up. So like for this one, there's 4 right there, so you can run that through with one color cardstock, and you have your 4 pieces to make that shape of flower. Now these aren't necessarily specific type of flowers, but you can mix them up and create things maybe that look like daisies. These, if you mixed enough of those together, you could have a pretty rose, pansies, etc. So this one, the dies like that, you get all 4 pieces when you cut it out. This is the interesting one. I've done a few different things with it, and I'll show you samples later. So it's got 2 dies. One's slightly smaller. They're not exactly identical in shape, and you can layer them up. You can layer them with other ones, but I've also chosen to fold them, and I think they kind of look, when you fold them up, they kind of look like the lilies, you know, that the flowers that are on lily pads. Also some of the inside shapes. So you have all these interesting shapes. We've had similar ones in the past like that. I call that the COVID virus shape, because when it cuts out, it has all the little bits that they used to show on all the videos when they're talking about the virus. But that reminds me of the passion fruit, the center of a passion fruit flower. And then these almost look like snowmen. Just interesting shapes. There's a few leaves on here, but there's no stems, so that's why I've chosen to use the Meadow dies to give me some stems, to give me some height. And then like this one here cuts out 4 little teeny tiny kind of centers. I think they're supposed to be centers of flowers. And then those are kind of similar to that one there, centers, I believe. This gives you a stem, and then if you cut these in a different color, you've got the inside buds to put on the stems, which is very convenient. And these 2 pieces, I guess they're just interesting decorative parts of flowers. I'll show you later how I use them. And then there's this strip here, which when you cut it out, it fringes the paper. So it's quite good. And I've got lots of other ideas besides flowers to use with that. But I'll show you the way you can use it for flowers in a moment. Okay, so let's get our background done, because in that way it can dry, and the flowers I use, the color of the flowers I use will depend on what my vellum background looks like. So you need your piece of vellum, and if you have it bigger than you need, that's fine. When you glue it onto the white cardstock, I'm actually going to cut it down, because sometimes when you glue it down, it doesn't align properly, and then you can just cut it down to suit. So you need that, and you need your Stampin' Blends. This will not work with Stampin' Write pens, because those are water-based. It needs to be Stampin' Blends pens, because they're alcohol-based. So I thought I would go with the Parakeet Party, the Tahitian Tide, and the Sweet Sorbet. I thought I'd go with those colors. I do have the other 2 colors, but they're very similar in like purpley blues. So I thought I'd go with this just to give me some big bright colors. So what you want to do first is just scribble. So the vellum doesn't have a right or wrong side. Okay, so it doesn't matter which side you scribble on, just remember which side, because that's the side we're going to put rubbing alcohol on. It's also called isopropyl alcohol. Now, I've actually got 100%, but to make this work, you need 90% or higher. I think I grabbed this from a chemist here in New Zealand. In the US, we used to call it rubbing alcohol because you used to use it to help clean your ears when you'd have your ears pierced. And you could get bigger bottles, but I was able to get the small bottle. I don't know what... Oh, there we go. $7.99 here in New Zealand, but that was a few years ago. So it's probably changed. So you're going to need that. You could put it into a container with a paintbrush, which is how I did that other project at the class I went to. Or what I do is I pop some in one of our spray bottles, and I make sure I label it so we know what's in here, and I don't accidentally spray it thinking it's just water, because usually these are reserved for water. So there's the spray there. Make sure when you're spraying it that you have it turned the right way. You don't spray it at yourself. And I'll show you that in a minute. So I've already got the alcohol in there. And you want to move things away because you don't want to spray the alcohol on something else. It might make other things bleed. So I'm just going to scribble. So we've got our thin chiseled end and we have our thicker paintbrush end. So I'm going to, I haven't used these in a while. I can't, there we go. I'm just going to do some scribbly blobs around. Doesn't matter what it looks like because in the end it's going to look completely different. And this is the dark. So with the Stampin' Blends, you have a light and a dark. They come in combos. So you have a light and a dark color. And you can choose what color to use. I'm going to start with the dark ones, and then I think I'll fill in a few bits with the light if I want. And so just scribble wherever you want. Make sure you have a light background so you can see where the pen's going. And then we'll go with our dark parakeet party. Scribble a bit about that in there. And some of these, being light, they're going to, might not even show up very well. So let's go in with some light of the Tahitian Tide. Is that right? Yeah, Tahitian Tide. So see how much darker it is on the paper versus on the vellum. I'm just putting a few blobs. Don't want to get too close to the red. I don't know if you've noticed, but it has smeared with the red and gotten on the tip of my pen. If you get that, just rub your pen on the paper until it comes off. So now let's go in with some light. Nice thing with this technique, you can always add to it. So if you don't like the look, you can add more color to it later on and change it up. You're probably wondering, how do you do that? Well, I will show you in a minute. Okay, I'm thinking this is getting a bit too red. I want to put some green in certain areas. Doesn't have to be completely filled up because when I do the spray, you'll see it's going to move around a bit. So I got a bit of the, if you see, I got a bit of the red on the tip. So I'm just going to rub the tip there until the red comes off. Okay, I might go with a bit dark. Maybe some more dark there. Okay, I think that's looking pretty good. Just think there's a couple spots I want to put something in. I'm not sure. Maybe we'll go with a bit of light blue in there. Okay, now the fun is going to happen. You're going to see what happens when you put the alcohol on here. So if you're not familiar with the Stampin' Blends, they're alcohol-based pens, so you can't refill them or anything. like you can our normal Stampin' Write pens you can refill with our re-inkers. But because they're alcohol based, they're actually permanent pens. So if I were to do nothing here, yep, so once it's dry, it's permanently on there. It's not coming off on me. It's not coming off on the paper. It's permanent. So it's a good one to do if you want to put it onto something like your window sheets, onto vellum. You can even use them to color on glass, ceramics, etc. It's a permanent ink. But having said that, it will react with alcohol. So you can remove it or make it move around with alcohol. So as long as it's, I believe, 90% or higher. So I'm going to move those pens out of the way. That just looks like a bit of a mess. Not that great. So you can see it's more vibrant on the side I colored versus the other side. So now I'm going to get paper towel just so I don't make a mess everywhere. And I'm going to spritz it. And you're going to see what happens when you spritz. So that isn't going anywhere. Rubbing it, nowhere. Rub it on the paper, not coming off. It's permanent. But with the magic of rubbing alcohol or isopropyl alcohol, make sure you know where the spray is going, you're going to see some changes. So I'm just going to spritz. Now if you don't have the spritzer, as I said, you can just put some in a little container and use a paintbrush and rub it around. So as you can see, it's making it blend together. And you can actually, if you want, if you get a lot on there, I can roll it around like that. But if you don't want it to continue rolling, like if you don't like the look of that, you can simply press on it to get that off. So there, and look, got interesting. So if I had white cardstock and I did that, I'd have a very interesting look on my white cardstock. So it looks very pale. Doesn't look really good at the moment. Just gonna make sure it's all dry. But if you take it and put it onto a white background, you can see it looks completely different. Now I'm not liking those streaks there, so I'm just going to add some more where those streaks are and see if I can get them to move a little bit. And I can just move them a bit. I kind of like how that's kind of come out. This one here, I just don't want the brush streak on it. Kind of want to get rid of the look of the brush strokes. So paper's looking better than this, I think. So yeah, so there's the different looks of it. And again, we'll pop it under the paper to see how that looks. Now it depends on how you do it, because this one I did brushes and I dripped water on it, and so I got those little water splats. This one here, because I was spraying it, it just looks a bit more, got some color on there now. It just looks a bit more subdued. And I think I kind of like the look of that subdued. So I'm going to leave that to dry. But if I want it, see how bright that yellow is and the other's not that bright? So if I want, make sure it's sufficiently dry, I can actually add some more color. And that looks yellow, but that's actually the green. So I can add a bit more green in a few spots if I want to, you know, bring out that color maybe a bit more. And I'm thinking blue might be nice, because I'm getting overwhelmed with a bit of the yellow. So So this is one of those techniques that you could spend all day playing around with, you know. It's just up to you how you want to do it. So now that I've got that, I'm just going to do a little spritz. And so now it's starting to run. See how that's... And let it kind of run a bit until you like the looks of it. I think I kind of like that, and I'm just going to give it a quick dry off. You can also dry this with your heat tool, except you have run the risk of melting the vellum. So there we go. So there we go. So I think I'll just leave that for now. Or not. Just that looks a bit not running as much as I'd like. Okay, I'll leave that and we'll carry on with the rest of the card, and I'll show you how to make some flowers. So pop that out of the way to dry, and let's make some flowers. So you could spend all day playing around with that. So that, my card's going to go on there, and I haven't chosen what color backgrounds to put on the card yet, because it's going to depend on what that looks like and how the flowers look. So I've already gone and pre-cut some of the flowers. So these are with the new, the In Colors that retire next year. And then those are some of the leftovers from the ones I was playing with earlier. That's the new In Colors. And I've also gone and pre-cut some of the Parakeet Party Meadow dies. Now this one I didn't cut the top. I didn't care that I missed out part of the top, because that's just going to hold in place the flowers I'm going to put on here. So, and I also made lots of the center bits out of black, because I thought black's more of a neutral look. And if they all kind of had the same center, that would be good. So let's make some flowers with these In Colors. Now, if you don't have a Stampin' Pierce mat, which I don't have, you can just use a what's it called? The back side of... That's the back side of a mouse pad. I can remember, because we don't use mice anymore. So if you have a mouse pad, turn it over and just use the back of it. And you got that nice spongy bit. And then you've got the plastic on the other side to protect you from poking things through if you were to poke things. So, or you can purchase the Stampin' Pierce mat, which is quite a handy thing to have. So the other tool that is good to have is your pick-a tool. So it's got different ends, but I'm going to use it with the cap on, and you'll see in a minute. So all these different flowers, you can layer them up however you want. So these are the different leaves that you can die cut. And this bit here, that's that fringe part, okay? So the point of this is to roll it up to do the inside of your flowers. But I don't know that I'm going to do mine green. But I also thought you could use it to imitate grass. So it could be down at the bottom and could be grass. Put it at the bottom of your card. But I have a smaller one. I didn't cut the full size. I only cut part of it. And I just want to show you how you make that into the center for a flower. So you start by, use your bone folder just to give it a bit of a flexibility. So imagine this is a full-size piece, so you just flex it a bit. I'm going to move that because I'm in a black background. You can't see very well. So you flex it a bit. And then I use the pointy part just to grab the end, holding the end, just to hold it, to twist it round. So if you do quilling, you'll be familiar with this. If you don't do quilling, so just start by twisting it. So there's a little twist there. And then once you get that twist started, you can just roll. You can roll it with your fingers, or you could probably roll it along the table. But that's not as easy to see. So just roll it around until you get to the end. And so this is a short one. So I decided just to do, just to do this, looking at what I'm doing and not what. So I've rolled it up, and then before you get to the end, just that end bit, put a little bit of glue. If your glue decides to behave. Just on that little end bit there. And then continue rolling it and hold it for a little bit. Just hold it in place. Okay. So hold it in place, and then once it's dry, you can then splay out the center. So just pushing, that's the top part that was cut. I'm just pushing on it to make the centers come out. And it gives you an interesting center that you can put in the middle of a flower. And I made some there. So that's that center. That's the full length. That's that full length there, done up and glued and sprayed out. And then those are those, I've layered up the other levels. So I've got that shape in there. I've got the interesting, I think it's like a sun shape. That shape in there as well, just to give you some different color ideas. And then the petals on this are the big petals here. You get 3 at a time, at a go. So I did it twice and got 6. And with those petals, when it die cuts them, it cuts a slit there. So you can use that to slide the 2 pieces over each other to give you a nice curve on your flower. So I did that, and then I used the bone folder to give me some edge. And then there's the leaf. I cut 2 of them, glued them back to back. And then, oh yeah, there's that like sun type shape. I use that on the back just to cover the messiness of the back. And I put a piece of wire through it. So I poked a hole through all the cardstock, but I didn't need to do one through there because that started with a hole in the middle. Put a piece of wire through, and there you have a flower. So that's what this piece can be used for. I'll just leave that there if you want to look at it. Now, the other flowers we got here, you can put them together however you'd like, okay? So I cut them in all the different colors because I wasn't sure which color was really going to stand out. See, that one's not, that's not looking that strong. In fact, it looks very yellow, actually. Thinking the red might be better flowers to make. Red might be my go-to flower. So I'll make some red flowers up. So I cut all of these just so you could see the different ones. With the red, you end up with this size one, you end up with 4 pieces. Now you can just layer them together and glue them together, but I like to give them some shape. So using your pierce mat, just with the cap on this side, I'm just pushing in the center, and see how it kind of pops up? It goes from flat to popped up just by pressing in the center. So you can just press in the center there on all of them. And that just gives you a bit more dimension to your flowers. This is the sweet sorbet. And then if you want, you can go further and just kind of curve over the edges with your bone folder, but don't pull too tight because you can rip the paper. Sometimes I just use my fingers and I just push in and pull out the top, and that just gives you a bit of shape to your flower. So I'm going to do that for this one here. I might use a little black in the center here because that might be a good size to have it. So just manipulating the cardstock a bit before you stick it together. And you can put these together with glue dots. You can put it together with your Tombow glue, or you could use your dimensionals. I suggest using the mini dimensionals if you're going to do that. So bit of glue in the center there. And then just layer it up. So just put them side by side to cover the gaps, and you could just have your flower like that, or you can carry on giving more layers to it. My glue is not behaving. I got one glue that doesn't come out very well and another glue that comes out too quick. So I'm kind of going between the two. I think the weather affects them. So there's that flower done. Now you could add, use some pen or ink and brush on it. I could put that little bit in the center. This almost looks like a poppy. If I put that part in the center. But I'm now thinking, looking at this, even though that was green, it's come out yellow. I'm thinking yellow centers might be a better option on this one. So I think I will do that in a minute. So this is kind of how the card's going to come together. Now with that, so these are the ones that I cut. I can glue that right on the top of that stem. That's why I left that top part there. So I can glue that onto that stem there. Just going to snip the edges down because I don't need the green sticking that far out. But that was actually supposed to be the silhouette of a flower. So I am going to put some glue onto the green and then put my flower right on the top of that. Okay, I need my other glue. Yeah, see, this is the one that has too much glue coming out. And I'm just going to pop that flower, just pop the green on the back of there. And so having that extra green there is just going to hold it in place. But you're not going to see it from the front, so that doesn't matter. Now, with this one, I mentioned that there's this little die here that cuts 3 shapes out that can be stuck onto this shape. But see this shape here? It has that little bit there. So I'm going to stick one on the back there. Oop. And just put the glue on the back. And that's going to give me a nice little bud for here. Choose one that should fit nicely. And just stick that on the back there. And so now I've got a little bud on there as well. Okay. So that's how you can do one flower. So that's going to be one of my flowers. I'll show you how to do the other flowers. So again, you can do what I said, push in the center, or just use your bone folder to give you some interest on the edges here. I'm just gently pulling up. So this is the other die that cuts 4 pieces that sort of looks like it's a daisy, but you can layer up even more than that and get an even bigger flower, which I'll show you in a minute. Because I think, seeing the size of this card, I might only go with 2 flowers on it. And I need to decide what background color to go with. But of course, everything I cut is not going to go to waste. I will continue crafting after I finish the video and make lots of other things with this really cool dies. Okay, so I'm just going to pop a bit of glue in the center there. It's misbehaving. There we go. And then just pop that so the edges stick out the side. And you could just stop there and have a nice, interesting looking daisy if I was doing this in yellow or white. But I'm going to then put another center bit, and then one more center bit. Oop. And so when you put the center bits, just do them at a slight angle. And so now you can see how I went from just a simple daisy to a nice built-up daisy. And that one, I might actually leave the green in the background there because it's quite cute. And I'm just going to put some glue on here. So this big die is from the Meadow dies. I'm just leaving that. So it's supposed to be a flower in the background, but I just left that green on there because it kind of makes it look like there's a bit of green coming out the back of there. So there's that flower. Oh, and what I was going to show you is, see this one here, when you stick it together like that, I could even put some more on the back there. So that other strange shaped one, you could put it on and have an even bigger red flower, but I think I'll leave that. I think I'll leave them dainty. I'm going to do some yellow centers for those off screen because even though that was the green, even though that was actually Parakeet Party, the green, it's turned into like a yellow. So I'm going to go with yellow centers. That will be make much more sense for these guys. And so this guy here, I could pop some of those red ones behind to create some more buds. I think I will do that. And then there's another little one. These little small circles, they look quite good as little flowers as well, which I'll show you in a minute. So I might die cut a few red ones to put on this as well. So that's how you can mix and match die sets to come up with different ideas. So that looks like I've got a couple little red buds coming out there. And that can be tucked in behind the rest of this. So when I put that together, I might even just tuck it in the front. Okay, so I didn't actually use these leaves on there, but they can be used elsewhere. Now I just wanted to show you something interesting that I discovered when I was playing with these. Besides doing all the different layers, you know, and you can layer any of the flowers. You could have different colors layered up. So we could layer these two, and then maybe put, you know, a blue one on top, you know, or just some of these small ones on top. So you can come up with all kinds of different floral ideas and things. But what I found when I was playing with them, I'll do it with this, is I folded See, that's got 5 bits, so I folded 2 of them up. And it had that interesting looking flower. And I thought, oh, that almost looks like a water lily flower. And then you can actually fold these guys as well. So I could fold those up in half. So just choose the part that you want to make it in half. Just fold it up. So then I got 2. So I either have a big and a small lily, or I could sandwich them together to have even bigger lily. And then pop that on a stem somewhere. And you've got interesting flower. I could maybe even pop that on there. There you go. When you do some of these layers like this, you can layer them up. You can pop things in the center like that. So you can pop different centers in there and layer them up however you like. So like that's got the 2 different centers. That looks kind of interesting, but it won't go with my background. You know, you could have the big one there. So let me show you some of the flowers I've already done while I then cut some yellow to finish off these. So here are a couple more. That's showing you how to do the buds and that background step. That's with the new boho blue and the lemon lime twist. Here's some more standalone flowers. So I did the leaf both ways. Put the center on there. Used a dimensional to pop up that part in the center. These are 3 of the new In Colors, and I have the background there as well. And I did the same for that one. So that is these 4 layered up with those other 2 strange looking ones. So that's all 6 of those layered up. Get you that interesting looking flower. And then I used one of the circles on the back just to cover the back, and a dimensional to hold the center. So you can have some very interesting looking flowers there. Other things that I've done with the bigger ones. So this is a card I made with the all the new In Colors, and I've layered them up. So that's just the 4 daisy pieces. That's the other 4 like I've just done with the red flower. That's only using 3 of those big ones that could make into a rose. And then those are those 2 that are 5-sided. And I used garden green for the leaves in the background. This is a retired die in the background there. And just popped one of the little centers in there. And then, so that's done with the new In Colors. And this is another one with the new In Colors. So that's where I did the folded over of those flowers like I just showed you with the red ones. And then I used one of the circles to create a center in there. Again, using the Meadow background dies. These are background embossing folders that have retired. And that's what I did with that weird shape. I created a sun. So those 2 pieces put together has created a sun. And then I used some of those little dotty bits on this piece to create more buds. And then that's with the new In Colors. So lots of different things you can do with this flower one. So I'm just going to pause the video for a second while I make some yellow centers for these flowers, because I could go with the black. See, that makes a really nice poppy. So that would be great for Anzac Day. Nice poppy. But because of the background of this card, I think I'm going to go with the yellow centers. However, I might stamp the rest of it while I'm here. Just move a few things out of the way. So the way the card's going to go together, that's our base. Now that's going to go together there. And I'm going to glue that together. Now another trick for gluing your vellum, another little tip to you, is when you glue your vellum down, you can usually see where it's been glued because it's so thin. But what you can do is take the wide end of your tombow. Some of you might not even be aware, you can unscrew the bottom. But there's a wider end on the tombow. Make sure you've got the part that you've actually colored on, that you're putting the glue. And let's see if this one has, this is probably one that doesn't have much glue in it. Hold on. Got to find one that's got enough glue in the end. And this wide end has a little, like a little scraper on it. So it's got like a angled edge to it. So plop some glue down, so squish some glue out, and just use that edge to rub it out to the sides. And don't worry if your vellum gets a bit bent, it's fine. So I'm just trying to get it out to the edges. And I'm going to work it out to the edges there. And then when we stick it down, the glue's not going to be as noticeable. So, which is also the reason why we use a piece that's slightly bigger, because you can't always line it up very well. So when I put it down, you can notice the glue at first, but if I rub it with my bone folder, the glue basically disappears because it's got that thin layer going through. But it does look like I might have picked up some other bits. So see how it's uneven on the edges? I'm just going to take my trimmer and trim that up. But the glue is virtually unnoticeable. So I had this piece cut slightly bigger than my white background. So I'm going to cut it down, and I'm going to use one of the in colors on the edges to give it some extra interest. So just going to trim the edges to make it straighter. All the edges because it didn't fit perfectly straight. So you could just do this with your normal trimmer, but I happen to have my little guillotine here. There we go. Okay, so got any bits on there, don't worry, they'll probably be covered up. So I want that, for this card, I want it to go top to bottom. And then this is the part I'm going to stamp on. Actually, I think I might want it to be that height. So I'm going to trim it to this height. And the background, with the flowers, I think I might introduce the lemon lime twist in the background for the edges. So with the flowers there, thinking I could have that edge, but as you can see, that color went much lighter when I sprayed it, so it's not that noticeable. So the other option on the edge would be to have this edge showing up on the side, which I might do that. And the best way to do that is to trim it to size. Okay, I've been messing around with it and I've come up with this color scheme here. So I think I'm going to stamp, I was going to stamp in color. I'm not sure if I'm going to go with that idea or not. I think I'm going to just go with black. Put the words in black. So I've decided to go with the Heartfelt Love and Caring Thoughts, which is from the Quiet Meadow stamp set. I've already die cut a circle for that. And there we go with that. So that's going to essentially basically kind of be over here. And then the strip in the background, I'm going to put 2 blues on the side, and I'm just wondering whether I should do that in the greens or the reds. I think I might do it in green. So we'll try the Parakeet Party. See how that looks. If I don't like it, I will change my mind, which is my prerogative because it's my mind. So this is in the Quiet Meadow stamp set, and it's just got kind of broken up letters, so you can't quite read it that well. So I'm doing the Parakeet Party, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp multiple times on, again, and just keep moving it around. So I'm stamping on and off, so I'm getting some full strength and some not full strength. Hopefully you can see that, and it doesn't matter which side I'm doing. Okay, so that's got the words just jumbled right through the center, which you couldn't read the words anyway. So that's going to go in the center, and then what I'm going to do is put the blue on the edges of it. Now you could just put a solid piece of blue behind it, but you're not going to see it all. So if you have any scraps, this is a good time to use it. Your scraps, just put a little bit of glue along the edge. And I'm using glue because that'll give me wiggle room to make sure they both show up in the same spot. Sorry about all the banging, but my glue is not cooperating today. And if I poke something in there, I'm sure I'll end up with too much glue. So, just going to put one side and then the other side, and then turn it over and wiggle it into the position I want it to be. So, pop it over, and then just because I use liquid glue, I can wiggle it down. Check the top and bottom is where I want it to be, and then just wiggle it so it looks about even on both sides. Again, it's a handmade card, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be perfect because it's not being made by a machine. It's being made with love by you. All right, so this one here I'm going to stick down. Because I'm having so much trouble with that glue, I'm just going to use my tear and tape. I tend to use tear and tape when I don't need it to wiggle into place, or if it's a big square or rectangle, because you can be more accurate with your straight lines with your tear and tape. And if you're not familiar with Stampin' Up! Products, the reason it's called tear and tape, actually tape and tear is what I would call it, is take the tape, stick it where you want it to go. I hold it this way so I have control over how much is coming out. When you get to the end where you want it to be, you just tear it. So the paper on there is light enough that it can be torn. Some people don't like the uneven edges, but you're not going to see that. That's going to be hidden underneath. So it doesn't matter if that's not even. So tear and tape makes it quick and easy to do things. So then I do my tabs, so I pull open an edge and like put a little tab sticking out, and that way I can get better accurate placement, because I notoriously put things crooked. I stamp them crooked, I glue them down crooked, all sorts of things. So I've already cut the blue, so basically for sizes, because I'm making this card up as I go, I just cut the cardstock with the vellum slightly smaller, by about half a centimeter smaller than the size of the card front. And then I just cut the blue to be half a centimeter larger on either side than this. So then that gives you a 1/4 of a centimeter sticking out. And so I want it to go top to bottom, so that's fine. It's actually sticking a bit further up, but I can trim that. And then this piece to go in the middle. Okay, so again, I'm going to use tape because it's a rectangle and I don't need to wiggle it into place. It's also good to do your layers in order when you stick them down. So put the bottom layer down first before you put the top bits on, because if you have anything that you want to stick up and you put it on there, when you go to put the adhesive on the back, you're going to squish it. So any of the front elements I do last. So let's just pull that up. So sorry it's a bit longer video, but that's because I was showing you all the fun I've been having with those Paper Florist dies. But there's lots of different flowers you could be creating. I'd love to see what you come up with. Okay, so I'm gonna try to center this. I don't mind that I've got too much white off the sides. That's kind of the plan for this card. But I can see that it's a little, blue's a little longer than I had thought it would be. I get that trouble here in New Zealand because of the metrics. Our cardstock doesn't divide perfectly in half. It's 297 millimeters long, but if you divide that in half, you come out to 14.85, but the trimmer doesn't show anything less than the 1 decimal, so you can get to 14.8, but the 0.5, you just have to eyeball. That's why you end up with things like that. Okay, and then this. So if I have any blemishes on there, I can choose to stick this to cover them. And again, being a rectangle, I'm just going to use my tear and tape again. And because it's a skinny one, I'm not going to go along the width. It's so skinny, I don't really think that end bit's going to come off, so I'm not going to put tape there. And you could pop things up on dimensional if you wanted to. So, what is your favorite color with In Colors? I'd love to hear in the comments below. So if you have any favorite color, feel free to put it in the comment which one you like best. At first I wasn't thinking I liked the new ones much because they kind of, to me, looked a little bit dull. But I've seen lots of things made with them, and once you start using them, they do go together quite well. So, oh, I haven't glued my bits now. So just a dot of glue there, hopefully. There we go. To pop this guy, and I'd like to hear if anybody else has tried the alcohol technique. Now for this one here, I'm going to put it in the center of that, but I want to give it some depth. So I'm going to bring in my mat and turn it over, and just using the plastic top to that, just give it a press, and you can just press it down, wiggle it around a bit, and give it kind of a circular wiggle, gives it some shape. And so that has curved it. And now you will see the mini dimensionals, which I should use a black one because I'm doing a black on black, but I don't have one handy. Pop it in the center there, and this will fit nicely, and it gives it a bit more dimension. And see, it looks like it's got little dots there. So now it's all a matter of placement. See, this is actually very pastel in the background. I thought it would be darker, but I guess that's what you get when you do the with the alcohol, it does take a bit off. So my words, I think I'm going to pop down here. And that's the longer one. Oh. And then I might pop that up in the middle. So I'm going to put some glue on this guy, hopefully. So you just need dots of glue along the edges. It doesn't all have to be glued down completely. You don't want to go overboard with the glue because then you end up with a sticky mess. And especially if anything's going to be hidden behind something else, if there's another layer that's going to be glued on top, you don't have to put adhesive or glue down to that part there. So, and if you've watched any of my other videos, you know that I use blocks to hold, push things down. That's why my blocks end up being all sticky. They got blobs of glue because I do that. Otherwise you end up with glue all over your fingers. And then I think that one. And that can come up through the middle. So pop this guy down. Like I said, you're not going to see the back there, so it doesn't matter that that's not not fully cut. Just a bit of glue there, and I think I might put a dimensional on that bud. So I'm not putting glue on it right now. And where'd my block go? Let me just use a little block to give it a bit of a rub down. And then I think I will put a mini dimensional on the back of this little bud here. Hopefully it's not too big. No, perfect. And then that bud can just sit up. So it makes it sit up in front of the flower. So see how it's just sitting up slightly. And then this one here I want to go in the center. And because I want those bits to stick up a little bit, I think I will put some dimensionals on them as well. So I'm going to just put them on the back of the buds. And then maybe I'll just pop one that section. And then I'll cut some of these. So I cut my dimensionals so you can get full use out of all the edges of them. So cut a few of them smaller to put on some of the smaller parts. So that's the nice thing about dimensionals, is you can cut them to fit the sections that you want. So you can get a size to fit anything basically. And one more. And then I'm just going to put some glue at the bottom because that'll make it go down flat. And I'm going to add a ribbon to this like it was in the original one. So now I just need to pull off paper. If you have trouble pulling it off, use the spiky part of your pick a tool. That works really well. So just gonna set that probably like there. Let's go in there. And then, because I did the black in the centers, I think I'm gonna go ahead and use the black ribbon like it was in the one I was casing. When I'm doing bows, I like to leave it on to the spool because it's easier and less wasteful than just cutting a big piece and then trying to tie your bow, because one, I've got a section holding one end of it for me, And 2, I'm not wasting a lot of ribbon, because if you cut a big section and then try your bow, you might end up having a lot of ribbon that you don't actually need, and it's too small to do anything else with. So I think that's, actually I think I need it to be longer. So see, now I can just pull it and do it longer. That way I didn't waste. If I'd already cut a piece and I couldn't make it longer, then that would be a problem. Okay. So I find some people have trouble with bows. I don't have problems making the bows. I have difficulty making it look the way I want. Yeah, okay. So now I'm just going to trim it at an angle. There, and then trim this one at a similar angle. Yeah. Okay. When you stick ribbons down, it's best to use glue dots, because ribbons don't like liquid glue. It ends up getting all sticky, and it can also discolor it. So I'm going to pop that one down there, and then I'm going to pop this one up on some dimensionals. So grab myself a glue dot. The other trick with glue dots is stick what you want onto the glue dot. So there's my glue dot there. I'm going to stick the center of the bow onto the glue dot nice and firmly, and then just peel it off. Because if I put the glue dot where I want this to go, sometimes it gets bent up when you take it off. So we're just going to pop that at a funny angle there, and then pop this one up with some dimensionals. And as you can see, I use scrap. There's always 2 sides to every piece of paper, so if you stamp something and you don't like it, if you can afford it, go ahead, throw it away. But if you don't, if you're on a budget and can't really afford that, then keep it for something else. And so I think maybe that would look good there. And I believe my card is done. Now I did have some of these matte decorative dots from previous. They're not currently available, but they were in the previous year. So I think I might take some of those and just pop them in. I'm just thinking about maybe going with the red. Sometimes it's nice just to add a little bit of bling after your card's done. Sometimes I leave it, sometimes I add bling. It just depends on what the card is. Sometimes you could just use Wink of Stella to add bling if you want. There we go. There. So now I am going to declare this card is finished. So there was a lot to it. Hopefully you stayed to the end. So there's the card made. And then I can stamp something on the inside, or put something else. Maybe, you know, some buds on the inside. Might do that. I'll think about it. So I hope you enjoyed that. This was using the In Colors that are valid until next year, 2024. Those flowers there are using the new In Colors. I don't have all the names memorized yet. This card here is using the brand new In Colors and some retired products, as well as this card here. So you can see there's different ways. Plus, I showed you how to use the Paper Florist Dies, and so there's different ways that you can do up your flowers. Same dies, you got a lot of different looks as far as the flowers go. Hope you enjoyed that. Please give me a thumbs up if you did. Make sure you click on the links in the description below to hop on over to other demonstrators' videos so you can see what they're doing with the In Colors. I can't wait to see the projects they're creating as well. And also come back each month for the Global Monthly Video Hop. Subscribe to my channel because I do videos at least once a month, sometimes more often, you never know. But you'll be notified when there is a new video if you subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and you have a lovely day. Bye-bye.